Hey everyone, this is Justin from the J&J Talk Show, and I would like to welcome you here this evening. We're going live again this morning, just because it's a simpler way to simply put out the content without a hassle. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. I apologize for the late start, trying to get things set up. Um, but our main topic of today or this morning going to be the race to October baseball. And yes, baseball is near, it is here, and it can't be more excited than to talk about the 3 weeks that baseball has left to play. And that's going to change a lot. A lot's going to happen over the next 3 weeks. A lot of games are going to take place, and that is going to lead into a whirlwind factor. And I am most excited going into this October baseball more than I've ever been, just because of the diversity of these teams and these organizations that are representing major league today and doing or in accomplishing postseason runs. So bear with me as I finish setting the small things up around here. Um, we are on YouTube Live. It's not going to be a full hours on end program, but bear with me as we get things final set up here. There we go. I think I like that better. So I appreciate your patience as a little late start this morning. But, I want to take some time and talk directly on certain subjects, on certain promotions, on certain sports throughout the week. Then when we get to wrestling on Saturday, on Sunday, over the weekend, we can just directly talk about these certain categories on different type of programs and different type of episodes and whatnot. Listen, base sports just in general. I don't know if anyone tuned into any sports yesterday, between baseball, between football. You had Monday Night Football and a very, very good game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Las Vegas Raiders. And hey, can you believe that? If you sat there and you would have told me that the AFC West was all going to win their games this weekend, I would have been mind blown. And I'm mind blown. The Raiders picking up a victory over the Baltimore Ravens last night on Monday Night Football, the first Monday Night Football of the season. And it was a very important game for the Raiders, considering that the rest of the division won their game. Also, a very important game for the Raiders. I think it had a lot of momentum going into the game, and this victory has such a momentum moving forward. Just because you're picking up the win. This is a team that Derek Carr has been working with, John Gruden has been working with for years, and for a few years now. They just moved still recently to Las Vegas. They just opened up a stadium in Las Vegas. This game had all the bells and whistles, all the right play calling. Um, Formatting. The Raiders performed excellent throughout this game, and that was a question going into the game. What type of Raiders are we seeing? Are these the Raiders that we're finally going to be nervous, and that's going to be testing that division in the AFC West? And I could tell you, based off of last night's performance, I believe you can anticipate a lot coming out of the Raiders this year. Hopefully, it maintains. But that was such an exciting game. Great football decision. I was optimistic about the Raiders and Ravens game in for Monday Night Football. I thought there was a couple other games that could have been considered, but this game alone paid off very well. We look into next week, and we'll get into football next week, but quick worthy mentions. Next Monday Night Football, the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. And next week, also Sunday football, the Chiefs are also hosting the Ravens. So not a good start for the Ravens. And hopefully that we can hopefully that the Ravens can come together and figure something out for this coming up Sunday. Also, I don't know anyone watched Raw last night. Some interesting events, and I'm actually pretty excited to be talking Raw and reviewing Raw for the first time in weeks. I'm excited to be talking about Raw here this coming up weekend. But Big E is your new WWE champion after cashing in against Bobby Lashley. And this was, they fall through with a Randy Orton and Bobby Lashley match last night, where Bobby Lashley defeated Randy Orton. If I said that correct, I apologize. And then Bobby wants to take things to the next level by putting Orton through the table. This ends up hurting his knee, and then Big E is determined to cash it in. So there's going to be a lot of thoughts. There's going to be a lot of comments for that show coming up here this weekend. But congratulations to the new WWE champion, Big E. Okay. But you know what? Our topic here, enough's been said. We are going directly into baseball, and I feel like this is a very big segment, very big, as we approach 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks before the baseball season is officially over with. And then we jump into postseason, where 9 teams are going to get an opportunity to win the World Series. A lot of those teams are repetitive that we've seen over the last few years, and I'm not saying a year or two. I'm talking about a few years. We're talking about the Astros, the Dodgers, like I said, a few. Red Sox and Yankees are looking to make their return. The Rays, who have been performing better the last couple of years, are over close to making their return. The Milwaukee Brewers are looking to make a repeat. Atlanta Braves looking to go back to the postseason. We have such a big wild card race as we head into these final 3 weeks. And we mentioned it last week as I brought to you the important games of the weekend. And I mentioned to you the importance of some of these wild card games. And now we're past that, and we have a whole nother picture we're looking at. And I want to first and foremost congratulate the San Francisco Giants for being the first MLB team to clinch the playoff berth in all of baseball. Now they're in title run right now for clinching the division. They currently have a 2-game lead above the Los Angeles Dodgers, or 2.5-game lead to be precise. As of today, September 14th, 2021, the Giants carry a 2.5-game lead above the Dodgers in the NL West. Now, there was talk about how well the Giants were going to be, but it impressed me enough to see such a run that the Giants have had so far this year. And if any other team deserves to win their division, it would be the Giants. And that was the question going into this season. And I think the question was mainly asked, could the Padres maintain with the Dodgers? Where we have already seen that this year hadn't gone so well. But to see the Giants making that appeal again and keeping up with the Dodgers, as much as I like the Dodgers and how they run their team and how dominant they are, they've been a decade dominating franchise, and they're going to always be relevant to the playoff picture, in my opinion. But to see a team in the West that can finally give a challenge to the Dodgers, and now you look at not only they're giving a challenge to the Dodgers, they're surpassing them and leading that division. And with 3 weeks left, and a whole bunch of the games left for the Giants are against the Padres. And after seeing the Giants destroy the Padres last night, 9-1, there's no doubt that the Giants have a better opportunity to win the division. Not only they're looking to win the division, but they're looking to have the best record in baseball, best record in the National League. And any team right now that's going up against the Giants are feared. We talk about how many games the Padres have with the Giants over the next 3 weeks. And it's a lot of games. And they didn't get off to a good start last night by losing. But you think about the Padres and their position in the postseason and having that second wild card opportunity. Currently, the Reds hold that second wild card in the NL. But the Padres and the Cardinals are tied now, half a game out. And you're thinking, hey, Padres, if you want a postseason opportunity, you don't have many opportunities left. You go to St. Louis this week and you finish up a 4-game series. You go to St. Louis, you come back home to face the Giants again, and then you play 4 games against Atlanta, go to LA, and then San Francisco again, if I'm not mistaken, and I'll confirm that here quickly for you. Yeah, so they finish up a 4-game series against San Francisco. They'll go to St. Louis, have a day off. 3 games against Giants again. 4 games because they got to make up the game that was rained out in Atlanta. 4 games against Atlanta at home. They'll go to LA, and then they'll go to San Francisco again. So, another 9 games against the first place Giants. 3 more games against the Dodgers. And this is a perfect, and 3 games against the Cardinals, who are also contending. This is a perfect time. Now, I'm not saying that, obviously Padres ain't winning the division, but this is a time where the Padres are needing to show the team, show everyone that they are playoff worthy. And it's a grunt. It's going to be a grunt for the next 3 weeks because other teams are not playing the same schedule the Padres are playing. I mean, we look at the Reds remainder of the season. They have 3 games in Pittsburgh. Then they get to host the Dodgers, which will be a threat. Then they got another 3 games against Pittsburgh again at home. They got 4 games against the last place Nationals. Then they get to face the White Sox, okay, but then they finish up with Pittsburgh. So the Reds have a clear opportunity the Reds have a clear opportunity with the games in Pittsburgh to have a advantage, with the games against Washington having advantage. And we're at the end of the season, and people and teams are now facing the fidelity of fatigue, which is a real thing. And with how difficult the schedule is for the Padres, you look at the schedule for the Reds, and it's not all that difficult, in my opinion, but you do have to execute. But the Reds right now look like they have a better opportunity over the Padres to advance to the playoffs. Just a real quick, what is the playoff picture? Well, the NL right now is sitting San Francisco with the best record in the NL, best record in baseball today. They sit and they clinch their division. The Milwaukee Brewers have a substantial lead over the Reds in the Central, and they're hoping to clear and clinch their division by the end of the week. The Atlanta Braves are a few games above first, followed by Milwaukee and New York. But that's the only division on the East in the National League that is still contending, and you probably won't find out until at least next week, if not later. We look at the and over in the American League, you have Tampa Bay leading the AL's division. You have Houston followed by with the White Sox, who's been very impressive. The White Sox look to be, this is as if everything goes according to plan. The White Sox will have the next wild card, the next clinch spot, in my belief. Houston looks to be close there. Tampa Bay looks to be close to be clinching here, probably by sometime next week if things still pan out the way that they're going. But Seattle and Oakland's giving Houston their money's worth. Toronto and New York and Boston are all in the pitcher hunt here. We get down to the wild card, and the Dodgers hold the NL wild card on with a good amount of lead. It looks like they're going to be that first wild card. They're going to have that home game in the wild card spot. But it's the following teams after them, which is the Cincinnati Reds currently having that position, the Padres and the Cardinals with the half a game out, and then you got the Phillies and the Mets about 2 to 4 games out, respectfully there. So within 3 weeks, there's still plenty of baseball to be played in the and things could change, obviously. And it's just as tight on the responding team. Toronto is currently holding that wild card spot. And realistically, you're looking for the home field advantage in that one game, but they only have a game of lead over the Yankees because in the Red Sox that are tied for number 2. Seattle's 2 games out. Oakland's 2.5 games out. So, don't count out these teams that are sitting 2, 3, 4 games out with 3 weeks left to play, especially depending on their season. Now we get back into the National League and how the National League wild card looks out. We sit here and we talk about the Dodgers having that comfortable lead. We talked about the Padres and the remainder of the schedule and how difficult that's going to be. We looked at the Reds remaining of the schedule. They are kind of similar like the Padres, but they get to face last place teams that are looking for next year that are probably not going to give you the run. I'm hoping that the Pirates' momentum should be, let's prevent the Reds from advancing to the postseason, right? I mean, they have 3 more series against the Reds. I mean, if you're in my books, I'm saying Pittsburgh, you have something to fight for. If you could prevent the Reds over the next 3 weeks and prevent them and knock them out of the playoff picture, then you've done your job successfully. So lots going on there. Drop everything today. But then we look at the Cardinals, and that currently tied with the Padres, half a game out of the wild card. They won last night. They will finish off a 3-game series in New York tonight and tomorrow. They'll have a day off to come home to host the Padres, which will be one of the important series this weekend that I would recommend watching. They will travel to Milwaukee, who should hopefully be clinching their division around that time. It's a 4-game series. Now, I would like to see the Cardinals kind of give a little struggle to the Brewers, but we'll see. The Cubs, who have not been playing such a good game, such a good season, they've only had 65 wins. You know that the Cubs and the Brewers would love nothing more but then to knock the Cardinals out of the postseason. So the Cardinals, listen, this is your week to survive. Take advantage of this week if you're the Cardinals, because you got the Mets, who's looking to contend, and if you could take 2 out of 3 there, it bumps them back into a worse picture. You could overcome the Padres, who are not playing really good baseball whatsoever. Because in the next 2 weeks, you got a 4-game in Milwaukee, 4 games in Chicago, because you got a doubleheader Friday. You got a day off, and then you come back home to face the Brewers and the Cubs again, who still put up a challenge against, and will put up a challenge against the Cardinals so that they could win a playoffs, just so that they could take out the Cardinals in a playoff spot. So the Cardinals have their team, their job worked out for them. It's not going to be a walk through the park. We take a look at the Phillies, 2.5 games out of the wild card. They host the Cubs. They'll go to New York. So if things work in the way that the Phillies advance and the Cardinals continue and take the series over New York, you could see New York drop from 3.5 to 7 games by the end of the week. Milwaukee will then come home next week and face Baltimore and Pittsburgh, because that's going to be an easy week. And then they go to Atlanta and go to Miami. So it's a very mixed feelings right now. If you are in the National League, there's still a lot of baseball to be played, a lot of great series that is to be played moving forward. So when it comes down to National League. So if you're a National League team, and I know I feel that there's a lot more people weighing towards the American side than the national side, but there's a lot of still great conversations to have when you talk about the National League side in the wild card picture and the matchups over the next 2 to 3 weeks between the Reds, the Padres, the Cardinals, the Phillies, and the Mets. And as we approach this weekend, as we get through this week, there's still a lot to be said, a lot to be done. So I want to, when we come back next week and we break this down again, it's going to be a better image, but it's going to be a chaotic image right now. And it may be a chaotic image next week as well. We advance to the American League side, because it's not a walk through the park either. See, Toronto has that 1 game lead over there in the wild card. They face the Tampa Bay Rays, who have a comfortable 7-8 game lead over the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays, see, now the Rays are looking to rest up, get healthy, rest their players. I mean, they still have enough games to be played, but you really can now afford to start looking into, okay, if we're looking into October baseball, what do we need to do to make sure that everyone's healthy? And you start seeing players being benched, starters not going 6-7 innings, bullpen doesn't get heavy. So Tampa Bay is on the road to Toronto, and this is how Toronto looks like. They currently hold a 1 game lead over the Yankees and the Red Sox in the wild card. This all changed over the weekend, because I remember talking to you guys back on Thursday and how Boston was having that control and leading that wild card spot. Well, it's the same. You have Toronto over in Tampa Bay, or Toronto home to Tampa Bay. Then they host the Minnesota Twins. They'll go to Tampa Bay, go to Minnesota, and then Toronto, depending on where the Yankees are at, the Blue Jays have to come home and face the Yankees and Orioles. So it's not a huge season that the Blue Jays have left. 3 series total or 4 series total against their division. But they have a really good opportunity to make that wild card spot as long as they continue playing the way they do. I mean, Minnesota, that are sitting dead last, 63 wins. You're playing them, 6 games. You got Baltimore, who has the worst record in baseball. I believe. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Yes, the Baltimore Orioles currently hold the worst record in baseball with 46 wins. But they're competing with the Arizona Diamondbacks. But the Blue Jays, this will be an opportunity for them. And it would be, as we progress, we want to see how they capitalize, if they could capitalize. Now, the Yankees beat Minnesota last night, and we talk about the next team that's tied, and we'll get to the Red Sox also. I'm painting this image. Apologize there. They go to Baltimore. They host 3 games in Baltimore now. Then they come home to Cleveland. Cleveland's not looking so great. They're out of the postseason picture. I mean, that's AL Central. I think everyone was shocked. I know I was shocked. I wasn't shocked about the White Sox contending. I was more shocked to see Minnesota in dead last. I was more shocked to see the gap, and it's mainly the gap that the Indians and the White Sox have amongst each other, and the fact that we're still 3 weeks away. And we just, we're looking maybe to pride, but the White Sox 82 wins, so they're above 500 now. The Indians 69 wins. They might not even get to 500. The White Sox are going to stand alone in their own division with the only team above 500. Unless something a miracle happens in the AL Central where the Indians could come across or the Tigers could come across another 15-game wins. That means they're going to have to win out the rest of the season. But what's more interesting to me is to see if the Tigers, who I've already seen the last decade not be such a great team, if they could come out in second place, that's going to be great momentum for the Tigers to advancing into 2022 season. With a little bit of confidence. That's what they're looking for, right? But the White Sox, the Yankees have to face the Indians this coming up weekend. Then they host the Texas. So they do Texas Rangers. So New York has, I say, this next 9 games to really trend and to make a statement. Now, I mentioned this before, and I'll say this again. I was watching baseball between the month of April and probably around June. I probably cut off a little bit after July, in July. And I started, was in and out throughout July and August. I didn't really pay much attention to. I started dying down to certain teams and teams that I was rooting for. But I wasn't paying, I was paying attention a lot to the Yankees in early on in the season, and the Yankees had been dealing with the most difficult time, most challenging time throughout the season, with injuries, with COVID, with everything going against them, weather delays. I mean, how many games have they had to make up this season because New York has been rained out so many times? And they really haven't had a moment in time where they've been able to just play Yankees baseball. The lineups have always been changing, and by the time you guys could play normal Yankees baseball, players are in slumps, they're aching, they're hurting. And to see them in the middle of September now with a opportunity at claiming a wild card spot means so much. I would say this because, I mean, if they weren't healthy, I expect them to be winning the division. I expect them to clinch it or, have a comfortable lead in the first wild card spot. But the way that the Yankees have played this year, I am in favor of them advancing to the postseason. I want them to advance. I don't normally get behind the Yankees. If they make it, they make it, and I give them credit. But typically, I don't give the Yankees any more credit than what they need. And at this point, in the way they played this season, they've earned me being on their side this year. So I'm actually rooting for the Yankees and everything that they're going through this season, that they could hold in there, hang in there, and they can gain a wild card spot. And for me, if the Yankees can somehow win the wild card or get to the wild, They, for me, are also receiving the American League Underdogs for the postseason. Now, they go on, like I said, they're in Baltimore. They come home to Cleveland and to the Rangers. Then they go on the road to Boston, Toronto, and Tampa Bay to finish off the season. And that's not a walk through the park. So, like I said, they are, for me, going to be the underdogs and the favorites that I'm at least rooting for. I wouldn't call them yet the favorites to win or to gain a postseason spot or a wild card spot this year, but they are. I'm wanting them to win. One of the teams I'm looking for this year to win. But a prick, but a thorn in the side of the Yankees has to be the Red Sox, who has been in and out all season long and really also been giving them struggle. The Red Sox are over in Seattle for 3 games. They finish up today and tomorrow. They come home to Baltimore and to the Mets, and then they host the Yankees. Within those next 9, 10 games, the Yankees will have 3 days off, or the Red Sox will have 3 days off. Then they will have another day off, going to Baltimore and going to Washington to finish the season. Other than the New York teams, just as much as the Seattle Mariners want to clinch or have an opportunity, and this is the series to do so, Red Sox and Seattle. And it's probably a series that I recommend watching throughout the week because it will say so much. If the Mariners could go in there and find a way to win 1-2 games in, it makes it much more interesting trying to knock out the Red Sox. But if the Red Sox can sit there and take 1-2, take the series, if not sweep them, well, in this case, they'll be taking the series after losing yesterday to the Mariners. They want to build that separation. See, Boston's goal right now is to build the separation between the West and the East. You have top 3 teams holding up in the East side, and then you have 2 teams contending from the West. And if Boston could do their job and divide and have create a separation, then they could focus directly on the Yankees and Toronto coming up at the end of the season. I mean, but Red Sox doesn't have they don't have a challenge either. Baltimore for 6 games, Washington. I mean, listen, Washington can still come out and play well, of course. Boston. I mean, wouldn't Baltimore want nothing more, knowing that Toronto, Yankees, and Red Sox are all contending, and wouldn't they want nothing more, knowing that they have probably one of the worst records in baseball this year, once again, and knock them out. So I don't know what's going on in the minds of Baltimore. I don't know what's going on in the minds of Arizona and stuff like that. But I'm assuming if you're out of the postseason and you're looking for 2022, your main priority is to focus on staying healthy for next year. What are our game plans to become a better ball team next year than the remainder of the season? At the same time, the players are wanting to end off the season off of a good note. But when you get an opportunity to take a series or win a game against a team that game affects whether or not they advance to October baseball, I'm pretty sure still today, they look into, okay, what can we do to knock the Dodgers out or knock the Yankees or the Padres out of the playoffs? And that's one of the. So I'm assuming, with as many games Baltimore is playing against the Yankees, against the Red Sox, that's what they're going into these series looking for, are those opportunities to knock their divisions out of the postseason. We don't want to forget the Seattle Mariners, who beat the Red Sox last night, looking to take the series only 2 games out. And they kind of snuck in there. I mean, I'm actually very surprised with how the Mariners have performed this season, currently holding the second place position in the AL West, behind the Astros, in front of the Athletics, with 78 wins, so looking to be above 500. I mean, I knew that they were going to be a decent team. I didn't know they were going to be 500 baseball, and I didn't know that you're going to talk about them on September 14th, 2021. That hey, they have a possibility of being a postseason contender. They got to overcome the Red Sox first and foremost. Then they kind of, I mean, I want to say it's a light day, but they get to face the Kansas City Royals on the road. They start this road trip, 3 games in Kansas City. Then they'll get the next 7 games on this road trip will be 4 against Oakland, in Oakland, 3 against Angels in Anaheim. Now, Anaheim, they're 8 games out of matching the Mariners with 70 wins. They probably, they're not looking at a postseason opportunity, but still 3 games, and they're going to have 3 more games at the end of the season with the Mariners. Like I said, I know there are teams that are not contending, but wouldn't the Angels like to at least have this season and get above 500? That's one thing the Angels have been struggling so much the last couple of seasons. It's just reaching 500. They'll play great baseball the first 2, maybe 3 months of the season. I mean, they'll even surprise you and hold second place, maybe even first place for a week or 2, and they'll play decent baseball for the most of the time. But it's about finishing, and you have injuries, and I don't know, maybe it's Angels curse. Can't tell you, but they find ways in July and August to find a lot of struggles to even maintain a 500 win baseball season. So I mean, you're over the next 3 weeks, the Angels are only 12 games away from 500 or above 500. What? 81 to 81 is 162, so you're only 11 games away from being at 500. So wouldn't the goal this year for the Angels be 500? And by the time they see the Mariners, hopefully that they're knocked out of the playoffs after having to face the Red Sox, the Royals, and the A's. But wouldn't it be nice if they were, or if the Angels go to, or Seattle comes to Anaheim, and the Angels at home, and that series becomes important to the Angels, because if they could take the series, then they officially knock the Mariners out of the postseason. That would be something special. Something that Seattle, that Los Angeles has not done in such a long time, is have a memorable moment in September. Hey, we can be the one that knocks the Mariners out of the postseason. I would like that, to see that happen. I mean, that Angels and Mariners in 2 weeks, probably not my top game, but we'll come back next week and determine that. I mean, with how, Mariners beating the Red Sox yesterday, they got to finish off that series. And, as well as I know, Oakland, with the 7 games they have left against Seattle, they're going to fight every single inning. And Oakland is a fighter. They fight a lot against these teams. And so I give a lot of credit. I don't count out the A's yet. Although the A's have a 2.5 games lead back from Toronto, New York, and Boston, I don't count them out quite yet, because they will find a way, just like they do year in and year out over the last decade. They'll find a way to be back, get themselves back into the postseason. and they start with Kansas City, then they go to LA, then they home to Seattle, home to Houston, go to Seattle again, and go to Houston. Yeah, it won't be an easy run, but Oakland will be surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if we come in here when in 2 weeks when Oakland's in Seattle and we're still talking about Oakland. I wouldn't be surprised. I would be a little surprised that Oakland will be out of the playoff run by then, but I wouldn't be surprised to be talking about them still at that time. So overall, right now, looks like other than I would honestly say the NL East with Atlanta at 76 wins, Philadelphia and New York with 72 wins. They still have an opportunity at clinching. And I think it would be problematical if you're in the East on the National League side that you would want to try to contend and win the division because it gives you'll be facing Milwaukee and you don't have to deal with and you wouldn't have to deal with the Dodgers and the Giants. See, so it looks like the winner of the AL wild card, whoever the two teams go, they'll do battle in less than a month from now, or in about a month from now. They'll do battle. And the winner of the AL wild card, and if this is just according to today, and if things stand where they are, they would have to face a series against Tampa Bay. And as of right now, the way things are going, it looks like it's going to be an East Coast battle. Tampa Bay among Toronto, New York, and Boston. And I'll take those series any day. First round of the playoffs. I mean, Houston and Chicago, that's going to be fun to talk about. But then Tampa Bay facing the Blue Jays, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. And if the Reds, if the Rays can defeat one of those teams in the divisional series, how much impact in just solidifying, hey, we are the next next East Coast team, and you guys need to now acknowledge us because I kind of feel like Tampa Bay has been in and out, has been sketchy, and they really built themselves over the last few years, and now they're back in the postseason and they're making them run once more. I mean, I know they went to the World Series a couple of years, they lost that, but now to be able to go back and I think they even went to World Series last year and they faced the Dodgers, but it gets to be able to go back to the postseason and now contend once more. I would love to see Tampa Bay and Chicago as the final two teams in the AL, but we still got plenty of baseball in that. Now, if you look things at the national side, now back to the national side. Oh, gosh. I know I said this last week. I will say this again and again and again. I am terrified. Whoever, it doesn't matter. I don't care right now if you're the Phillies, if you're the Cardinals. I don't care if you're the Mets. If you are the second team it's one thing to get yourself into the postseason. And right now with the stretch that these next 5 teams have, the Reds, Padres, Cardinals, Phillies, and Mets, they already have themselves a handful of tasks, wearing themselves out to get to that second wild card spot. But whoever makes it, you got to face the Dodgers or the Giants, who have been nothing but untouchable since August. And it doesn't matter who wins the division, because here's the thing: even if you make it to the wild card game, unless you got to face the Dodgers in the wild card, and you can somehow, some way, shape or form, overcome the Dodgers in a one game elimination match and make it to the divisional series, now you got to face the Giants. I mean, it works vice versa, and that's just not. that is really just the most scariest thing that I could think of right now for the second team in that wild card. As much as I want the Padres to go, they've shown a lot of fatigue over the last 2 months. Injuries don't help. Blake Snell just got injured. I don't know how long he's going to be out. I haven't updated myself on that. But Padres have shown fatigue. They had a really great start to the season, and now they're starting to die down because of the fatigue that this team has. Now, 3 weeks 3 weeks are left, and they're playing majority of their games against the Dodgers and Giants, which doesn't make anything easier. But I still believe that the Padres can do it. The Reds can make it as well. Like I said, they got to face Pittsburgh. But whoever makes the postseason, the second wild card, they have to overcome the Dodgers or the Giants in the wild card. And if they could do that, then they have to come and overcome the next person, which is the Dodgers or Giants in the divisional series. So I'm rooting for the Yankees in the AL wild card. I'm thinking with all the stuff that the Yankees had to deal with, and this is going to be more of a biased opinion because I have not paid close attention to the Red Sox or the Blue Jays or the Mariners or the Athletics. A's, whichever one you want to call them. I paid attention the first half of the season solely on the Yankees. Not just the Yankees, but mainly I've, caught myself watching more Yankees games this year. And so for me, Yankees are my favorite because I've seen them go through the type of season they had. And it hasn't been the greatest season that they wish they should have had, probably should have had, because they have a really good team. So Yankees are my calling, and I'm hoping that they could get into a wild card spot in the AL American League. National League, I'm still shooting for the Padres because that's my home team, and I will be a biased opinion. I will not discredit how the Reds, Cardinals, Phillies, and Mets are playing. But I am saying that I'm still hoping for the Padres. But I'm scared. But overall, though, it's not just about the Padres. Any team that makes that second wild card spot, I'm rooting for. Because they would have to overcome, in order to get to the World Series, they would have to overcome the Dodgers, the Giants, and either the Braves or Milwaukee, according to how standings are. We take a look quickly into the season and this week of baseball and some memorable games. We watched baseball last night. Giants beat the Padres. Yankees beat the Twins. Blue Jays beat the Rays. Astros destroyed the Rangers 15-1. And the Mariners beat the Red Sox. Dodgers obviously overcoming the Diamondbacks. I'm looking throughout the week of this week of baseball. And I'm like, okay, what games can or should we look at? The Mariners and Red Sox game is not bad to watch. Dodgers, I'm just going to start throwing out some names here. White Sox are playing the Angels, Dodgers, and D-backs. But games, I'm kind of scrolling through the list as of today's games. And right now, with how the Padres are playing, I'm not saying the Padres is a team that you need to be watching right now, or the Giants. The Giants just won or clinched a playoff spot, so I'm not interested in watching the Giants and Padres game because, well, my blood pressure is going to skyrocket through the roof, and that's not going to be a fun sight to see. So I'm actually staying away from the Giants and Padres this series. I'm going to let the Padres just do their thing, revisit at the end of the week, and go from there. The Reds is kind of interesting to watch, but they're facing the Pirates. So I'm not really, too big about that one. If that's a local game that you could watch, then I would watch it. Yankees and Orioles, same situation, not necessarily a big one. I mean, there's 3 games right now on my list that I would watch, and a lot of it's in the American League. First game of going on is the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays. If you guys had the MLB TV, because you were a T-Mobile, subscriber, and you get that at the beginning of the year, if you could get it on ESPN or MLB Network, I don't know what's airing as of today. Or tomorrow or Thursday. But the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays is a game for me to watch, just because the Blue Jays are trying to make themselves and get themselves into the postseason. So that's one of the games I would watch this week. The Cardinals and the Mets is another game to watch on the National League side, because that is 2 teams fighting. The Mets are fighting for a postseason spot. Now they're at the bottom of that conversation, but they're still much into the division as well as into the wild card, as well as the Cardinals looking to hopefully by the end of this week have a wild card spot. And then my last game here is the Boston Red Sox and the Seattle Mariners. We knew that Boston won last night, or Seattle won last night, and that is going to be a wild card strictly only. So 2 games up and foremost: the Mets and the Cardinals, the Red Sox and the Mariners, and then I would also tune into the Rays and the Blue Jays. Now that's just coming up this week. If I don't get to you this weekend, and I think I will, but just an idea. Padres and Cardinals are a game to watch this weekend for sure. You also have Cleveland. I mean, New York's playing Cleveland, Dodgers and Reds once again. So we're going to, last week we did Padres and Dodgers and Reds and Cardinals. This weekend, I would encourage you to watch the Padres and Cardinals and the Dodgers and Reds series. And that's just for the National League side, because everything that is going on in the wild card is happening in those 2 games. And then right now, I mean, for me, that is only those are the only games to really look out for. Oh, and then this weekend, I will have to mention the Phillies and the Mets, as well, as they look to try to get themselves closer. One team will probably be knocked out by the end of this week, hopefully. And as we approach next week, and I rejoin you guys back next week, as we get a better discussion about where things are at, we have a little bit better picture. So, what do you guys think? Who do you guys think are going to be the second wildcard teams for both leagues? Who will be the next team to clinch? I got my money on the White Sox, but I mean, maybe the Rays too, but the White Sox look pretty promising. Who is going to? Will it be Toronto, New York, Toronto, and Boston? Will Seattle overcome and prevail? How much are you guys betted on the Padres or Reds still? Keeping faith and hope, but I mean, with St. Louis and Philadelphia not too far behind, there's still 3 weeks of baseball. 15 games left at least? I mean, it looks like there's still plenty amount of baseball left to be played, that can be determined on how the postseason looks at. Don't forget, postseason starts in October. We will get to you then. We'll wrap it up the end of the show. I mean, it's been an hour. We talked enough baseball. And I know, listen, we ended off a great week of sports last weekend. We finished things. We got off to a great start this week. Big E winning the WWE Championship last night on Raw. If you didn't get a chance to watch that, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert there. But go back and watch the match. You also got the Las Vegas Raiders, who won in overtime, something that hasn't happened on Monday Night Football. It was an overtime game since, I believe, the 1970s. And they beat the Ravens, which was a huge win for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's gonna conflict into this week. Tomorrow, okay. Today we're actually going out to. Today we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go on Facebook Live. So if you're streaming now on J&J Talk Show on YouTube, you could also head over to our um, Facebook page, the JJ Talk Show. Follow the page, and then you could go to the page, and I will be posting up week two's football picks. And what I will, we're going to be posting tomorrow who we believe is going to win each game. But you guys could join with us. All we do is we post all the games going on this coming up week in the NFL, and we will go ahead and give you our selections on who we think is going to win, and then therefore you guys could also join in and give your selection. Please join us and play with us. Um, and it's just a friendly competition for now. I don't want to promise anything anytime soon, but we could be more creative if more people get involved and want to play. So that's something to look out to later on today on Facebook. I want to give a big shout out to our good pal Trey, who's been promoting our channel. He also put on a promotion last night for this live stream today. So if you're catching this later, you know we're talking about wrestling, but we're doing these segments for baseball, for football, and all that stuff. I will be back again tomorrow, either tomorrow or Thursday. Haven't officially announced it yet, to go over the NFL Week 2, also a little bit of college games, what to look out for. So that's what we look at for the rest of the week. I'll probably then cover what to look for baseball this weekend if we do it that way, but we will see what happens and when we're going to put on that program. So stay tuned, keep on following us, hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Also, leave us a comment, let us know how we're doing, what can be improved. Right now we're going through the YouTube studio, so we want as much feedback as possible. So we appreciate your time, we appreciate your support, and you following us, and please share this to as many people as possible. With that being said, though, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. My name is Justin. On behalf of the J&J Talk Show, we thank you, and you have yourself a nice day and a nice week.